Hey, get in here. It's a midnight ride. We're gonna ride. I'm gonna take you into the midnight. I got 5 videos that we're gonna watch together. We're gonna hang out and talk and have a good time. Get in here. Chat with me. Hey, Joan. Joan's here on YouTube. We're on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook right now. Conspiracy theories and chill all around. Get in here. The midnight ride. We got a lot of things to get into, man. We're going to get into Tesla's most powerful weapon. We're going to get into fake news. We're going to get into the CIA in Hollywood. We're going to get into CERN. The CERN's firing up April 8th. Right with the eclipse. You know how CERN has to be fucking creepy. Get in here. We're going to do a ride. Share this out. Like and share. No matter when you're here, you cannot be late. So whenever you show up to a midnight ride, you are right on time. Share this out, comment, let us know you're here. Subscribe to the page, follow our content so that you get notified when we're live. Hit the little bell. Do all that stuff. It's important. Strap in on this ride. That's like putting on your seatbelt on a midnight ride. Strap in. Get ready. Because we have got to address some things and talk about some stuff. There's all kinds of things going on and all kinds of things happening. But Joan says she didn't have a share option. Maybe I was bad. On Facebook, you didn't have a share option. On YouTube, you got to be logged in. But you look logged in. You should have had a share option. I don't know. Maybe you were bad. You are bad. I'm a bad influence on you, though. It's kind of my fault that Joan's bad. She can't help it. You know, I give Joan a bad name. I'm the one that taught Joan that we never been to the moon. I ruined the moon for Joan. I'm a dream smasher. But, you know, it's hard to believe in bullshit when you're friends with me. It don't stand up good. You know? But this is a midnight ride. I was hanging out with Harsh earlier, me and Harsh. You're going to see us again tomorrow on the Morning Yank, the morning show. Don't forget to come back for that, 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning, Morning Yank. But I was on with Harsh a little while ago, and we were talking, hanging out and talking about just different stuff, all kinds of stuff. We had an interesting conversation. But yeah, let's say hi. Hey, Joan. Hey to everybody here. This is a midnight ride. So what happens on a midnight ride is I got 5 videos picked out. So 2 of them are mine. 2 of them are original conspiracy theories and chill videos. I figured that'd be a little treat for us. And then 3 of them we're going to watch together. We're going to experience for the first time together. They looked interesting. I'm relatively familiar with their source, so I'm pretty sure they'll be good. We're going to watch them together. Mine I can vouch for. The 2 will be fantastic. One on CERN, like I said, and the other on Bob Marley. The truth of Bob Marley's death. But make sure, real quick, I want to remind you, and again, no matter when you're here, to smash them shits. Share this out, like it, and subscribe. But if you're ready, we got a lot to get through. I want to get us started on this midnight ride. This is an original Conspiracy Theories and Chill video of mine on the death of Bob Marley. Um, Bob Marley died under suspicious circumstances. He had a cancer that rapidly spread from his toe throughout his entire body and killed him. A lot of people, myself included, don't feel like that was natural. They feel like he was assassinated. And it wasn't the only time that they tried to assassinate Bob Marley. They were just successful with the cancer. And I don't think Bob Marley's the only person they ever gave cancer to. But I think that's what happened. So let's check out this video from Conspiracy Theories and Chill on the death of Bob Marley, and you tell me what you think. We'll be right back after this video on the Midnight Ride.
February 6, 1945, Robert Nesta Marley was born in Kingston, Jamaica. Known later worldwide as Bob Marley, he grew up to become one of the most influential human beings that has ever lived. His ability to speak to people's souls through his music and his willingness to speak out and stand up against injustices in the world, while at the same time informing and teaching people about the oppressions and true evils of this world, showing them the truth that love and unity has the power to save us all. Had Bob Marley lived long enough and continued on his trajectory, he could have influenced and changed people's perceptions towards racism, love, unity, and the governance of society itself. But Bob Marley was taken early, at just 36 years old, by aggressive cancer that spread rapidly throughout his body. But many people do not believe that this cancer that began in his toe originated organically, and instead deeply believe that Bob Marley was assassinated to stop him from further spreading his message and to keep him and his music from awakening any more people to reality. They believe that he was killed to put an end to his influence on society. So tonight, on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we are going to explore the theory that Bob Marley was actually murdered in order to silence him and stop his message. Now, musically, everyone's well aware that Bob Marley was a phenomenon. He had a very large following and his music was extremely popular. During Bob Marley's musical rise and the peak of his popularity in Jamaica in the late 70s, things were very politically volatile. In fact, Bob Marley did not speak out on politics at all, making no official political statements one way or the other. Not that he wasn't political, he just avoided politics and instead focused on issues that he felt were truly important, such as unity and human rights. And it was also very dangerous in the climate of Jamaica for a popular figure to even have an official political stance. So as far as actual politics went, Bob was very quiet even about his own opinions on it. And despite that, both major political parties in Jamaica aggressively sought Bob Marley's endorsement in order to win over the people of Jamaica in the upcoming election. Two wildly different political views were clashing. On one side, Michael Manley was the current Prime Minister of Jamaica and a democratic socialist. He was being opposed by the Jamaican Labour Party led by Edward Ciega. Now, Ciega was known by the locals in Jamaica as Eddie Ciega and was U.S. and CIA backed to take over the Jamaican government's leadership. The U.S. was opposed to Manley. They did not like it that he was looking to model Jamaica's government after Fidel Castro's, who Manley had recently visited and observed and also was known to admire. And with both candidates seeking Bob Marley's endorsement and Bob wanting no part of taking a political stance, which it needs to be pointed out again that he knew doing so would literally be risking his own life, he instead offered to hold a concert and have both political opponents come on stage and shake hands as a public gesture that the election was in the end for the people of Jamaica. But Prime Minister Manley takes this inch and runs a mile with it, proclaiming everywhere and advertising it even that Bob Marley was going to be putting on a concert on the Prime Minister's front lawn for the people of Jamaica, effectively making it seem to everyone that Bob Marley had endorsed Manley for re-election. And this action led to many death threats that were aimed at Bob Marley, causing Marley to hire his own personal security detail, which guarded him 24/7. And as far as the concert went, both parties agreed to a neutral location just 2 weeks prior to the event itself, but under-promoted that fact. So as far as the public perceives, this event is still taking place on the Prime Minister's front lawn and leaves everyone thinking that Bob Marley still supports Manley for re-election. 2 days before the event, on December 3rd, Bob Marley's home is raided by 2 carloads of gunmen. Now, curiously, his personal security detail is absent at the time. The gunmen ran through the Marley compound, shooting everyone that they saw. They hit Bob's wife Rita in the head. Bob himself was shot, and others in the home were hit as well by the gunfire. All survived the attack, but at this point, everyone around Bob Marley was telling him to call off the concert. His publicist, Jeff Walker, is credited with convincing Marley to go on with the event, convincing a frightened Bob Marley that said he wouldn't do the show without a machine gun, that his guitar was his machine gun. And 80,000 people are said to have attended the concert. 10 days later, Prime Minister Manley was re-elected. And fearing for his life, Bob Marley fled to England, and no one has ever been found responsible for the December 3rd attack on Bob Marley's compound, despite many believing that the assassination attempt was called for by the Jamaican Labour Party, which was again backed by the United States and the CIA. But despite the clear motives and connections, the CIA nor anyone else has been officially implicated in the assassination attempt. Now, it is well known that the CIA had a great interest in Bob Marley, and a large file on Marley exists at the CIA for a reason, and I doubt it's to study his music. I tell you this story to demonstrate that even trying his best to stay out of politics in his own country, Bob Marley was heavily influential and dangerous to the power structure itself, not just in Jamaica, but worldwide. And that is why the CIA holds large files on Bob Marley. And it is also why many people believe that he was killed to keep him from using that influence to change the world. So, who killed Bob Marley? Was it the CIA? Now, there exists a story of a poisoned shoe, a gift from the CIA. In fact, there is also a deathbed confession by a 29-year CIA veteran backing it up, and a tale I found of the man who in the end ended up with that pair of Converse All-Star shoes, and when he went to wear them, they hurt his feet, so he took them apart, finding a small piece of copper wire right under the toe of the sole of the shoe. So did the CIA poison Bob Marley? 79-year-old ex-agent for the CIA, Bill Oxley, says he worked as a hitman on targets deemed to represent a threat to the interest of the United States. And he said in an interview before his death that he killed Bob Marley and had no problem in doing so because he was a patriot that believed in the CIA and never questioned the motivations of the agency, adding that he looked at it as a sacrifice being made for the greater good. Oxley used faked press credentials to gain access to Bob Marley at his Blue Mountain retreat. He claimed to be a famous photographer working for the New York Times and gave Bob Marley a gift, a pair of Converse All-Star shoes. And he said that when Bob put on the shoes, he screamed out in pain. Oxley said that was it. His life was over right there and then. The nail in the shoe was tainted with cancer viruses and bacteria. If it pierced his skin, which it did, it was good night, nurse. In the interview, Oxley adds that there have been many high-profile assassinations of counterculture figures in the United States and abroad in the late 60s and early 70s. And Oxley in fact claimed to have himself been involved in at least 16 other high-profile assassinations done by the CIA. He said that over time, the CIA realized that subtlety was the better approach. No more bullets and splattered brains, but more subversive and hidden methods were decided to be the best way to kill not just the person, but the idea itself. It was not only much neater, but eliminates the unwanted result of martyrdom for the victim. Oxley claims to have kept close contact with Marley up until his death to influence him away from any treatments that might cure him and to hasten his demise. He said that the last time he saw Bob Marley, he had removed his dreadlocks and his weight was dropping like a stone. He said that on this last visit, Bob was very weak and withdrawn, unbelievably small, and he knew that the cancer had done its job. Bob Marley passed away May 11, 1981, at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Miami, Florida. Medical records from the hospital attribute his death to a cancerous brain tumor that had precipitated from his long battle with skin cancer. This cancer is said to have spread all throughout his body, to his lungs, brain, and other vital organs, making it impossible for doctors to save his life. Over the span of 4 years, the cancer had spread from where it was first discovered, in his toe, throughout his whole body, and killed him from the inside out. People attribute the speed in which this cancer took him to the fact that due to his personal religious beliefs, he refused most offered treatments. For instance, he refused to have the toe amputated and believed the body to be sacred. He didn't believe in altering or interfering with the body, and people say that is the reason the cancer spread so rapidly. Mainstream science also claims that it's because they didn't have the proper treatments for the type of cancer that Bob Marley had at the time of his death, and that is the reason it spread so rapidly, killing him in the way that it did. But many still do not buy this story, and instead believe that it was a weaponized form of cancer that was used on Bob Marley and that it was done by the CIA. There certainly is motive for this theory, and many interesting bits of information as well. And when you add in the corroborating evidence, it starts to be a little overwhelming, in fact, that the CIA most likely did assassinate Bob Marley, just like Bill Oxley claims to have done. But the CIA isn't the only force that wanted Bob Marley dead. And Bob Marley isn't the only influential Jamaican singer killed from his original group, the Wailers. Peter Tosh, who like Marley was a widely influential civil rights agitator, was also gunned down suspiciously in 1987 at the age of 43. Surviving member of the Wailers, Bunny Wailer, tells a very different story of who is responsible for Bob Marley's death. And while he had never made a secret of his hatred for Bob's wife Rita, in a letter that Bunny published, he went a step further and outright accused Rita and Bob Marley's manager Christopher Blackwell of the murder of Bob Marley. According to Bunny Wailer, Rita Marley was feeding Bob radioactive ash and poisoned him slowly to death, and that is what actually killed him. Tragically, we will never know the truth, and all that we do know is that Bob Marley died a horrible death at a young age. There is no real way to know what the world would be like if his light wasn't put out before its time. But did the CIA kill Bob Marley? In the end, we may never know for sure. But what I do know is that is what they do. The CIA assassination program is very real, and people like a Bob Marley is their exact target. It is the CIA's entire purpose, in fact, to eliminate opposing views and destroy movements before they gain enough power to be effective. And I also know that they were following Bob Marley closely as a person of interest. In a good live there, they definitely had the motive and opportunity to kill him. The deathbed confession of the agent and corroborating story of the person who came into possession of the shoes and took them apart is very convincing. Listen for yourself.
So Jalide gave us the story of how Bob Marley died because he and Bob Marley was close. So Bob Marley morning for Bob Marley. Marley saw Jalide came inside in his water boots and shit like that. Bob Marley was like, Jalide, every time you come and look for me, you always come in water boots and shit. Take down any shoes that you like inside of my closet. Anyway, Jalide went inside the closet and take down Bob Marley's superstar shoes that America gave Bob Marley for a superstar. Anyway, Bob Marley said to Jalide, say, I want you to put on the shoes, man. You ain't gonna come out of here in the water boats this morning. You're gonna wear my shoes through that gate. Anyway, Jalide take the shoes and Jalide put on the shoes. And when Jalide put on the shoes, Jalide said that he fell on the floor. He get back up, he fell back on the floor. He get back up, he fell back on the floor. So he take the shoe off. So when he take the shoe off, it was like, Bob, okay, man, this shoes is not for me, man. And Bob said, take the shoes, man. So Jalide said, anyway, I'm going to take the shoes, Bob, but I ain't going to wear it out of here, man, because I can't wear it right now. Anyway, Bob said, okay, all right, go ahead. Catch you later, Jalide. Anyway, Jalide leave and went to his house, and he was looking at the shoes, talking to God, talking to the Almighty and stuff like that, and said, what the problem with these shoes that I can't wear them? The Almighty said to him, take out the sole of the shoes. When he take out the sole of the shoes, into the shoe where Bob Marley big toe rests inside the shoes, underneath the sole, you know what Babylon did? They put a piece of copper wire underneath the sole of his shoes. So when Bob Marley wear the shoes, the copper keep on sticking Bob Marley into his toe. And what that copper wire does, it poisons his body and killed him. So when you hear of people talking about Bob Marley have cancer, that's a lie. Bob Marley didn't have no cancer. Babylon killed Bob Marley. The CIA's killed Bob Marley's. Okay?
So, who killed Bob Marley? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Conspiracy Theories and Shit.
All right, that was my video on the death of Bob Marley from Conspiracy Theories and Chill. And the most compelling piece of evidence in that video is the guy's story at the end about the shoes. But Joan has an interesting question. Why didn't the other guy that got poked by the shoes die of cancer as well? Now, it's possible that the entire dose got put into Bob. You know, maybe Bob was ready to get rid of them shoes because he didn't like wearing them because he got poked. I don't know. Or it's possible that that's bullshit. What did you think of that guy's story? It looked to me like he believed it. But is that make it true? Hey, Drew, this is a midnight ride. We're midnight riding on Easter. You know, Ishtar? Today's a pagan holiday. This has nothing to do with the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Tony was here. He'd tell you. I tagged Tony. This is a pagan holiday. But, you know, tomorrow, peeps are on sale. So check it out. Wherever you go and do your shopping, Easter candy will be on sale tomorrow. Dirt cheap. You can get you some peeps. You can do all that. That was our first video on tonight's midnight ride. So share this out. We got 4 more videos to go. 4 more. The next one has to do with the CIA infiltrating the media. The government and the CIA, intelligence agencies, etc., infiltrating the media, which we know began in the 50s, Operation Mockingbird. And they say they stopped in the 70s, but bullshit. They never stopped, and then Obama made it legal to propagandize the American people. So now it's off the chain. Our media is insane anymore. But yeah, that's what this is. It's a midnight ride. We're riding, we're hanging out. But yeah, smash them shits. Share this out. But what do you guys want to get into? What do you want to talk about tonight on this midnight ride? You're driving. I'm just in the passenger seat. I brought us some destinations. We're going to go to these different destinations. Who do I think Osama bin Laden is? Tim Osman. The Bin Ladens are a very rich oil family, but his CIA code name was Tim Osman, and he worked for the CIA. Obama? Who do I think Obama is? Obama's father's a terrorist. Um, Obama has an interesting story. A lot of people think Obama's the Antichrist. Barack Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. You know, they say he's still in charge. They say he activated ISIS. You think Barack Obama is Osama bin Laden? Wow. I've never heard that one. Have any of you guys heard that one? Barack Obama is Osama bin Laden? That's one that's new on me. So I'm checking Rumble. Nobody's commented over there about hearing about Barack Obama being Osama bin Laden, but maybe he is. Maybe that's something we broke on the midnight ride. Drew thinks they're the same person. And you know what? They only have so many actors in this bullshit kabuki theater, so maybe it is. But the next one that we're going to watch on the midnight ride has to do with the media, has to do with Hollywood and the corruptions of it by the intelligence agencies and by our own governments. So if you're ready, strap in, because I've got another video for you on the intelligence agencies manipulating the media on the midnight ride.
The presidents that have, well, reigned in the United States have all been related.
Why do you believe that Hollywood was created by the CIA?
First off, you guys do know the Pentagon has a budget for film.
I know that.
That's a fact.
Were you part of the Illuminati?
Oh. Yeah.
Something dark is going on with the Shadow Work Journal.
First off, you guys do know the Pentagon has a budget for film.
I know that.
That's a fact.
Candace Owens isn't lying here. The Pentagon has been making films in Hollywood for over 100 years, which is pretty much the beginning. The first silent film was made in 1910. And Candace tells us why the government's in the movie-making business.
Because they're concerned about certain narratives. They get involved with, like, World War films, like, how are we telling a story about history? Usually it's because we're lying about what we did or trying not to make Americans aware of the crimes against humanity that we commit overseas.
And they've made a ton of movies like Transformers, Iron Man, I Am Legend, Black Hawk Down, James Bond, Captain Phillips, just to name a few. It even goes further and says that more than 2,500 films and TV shows have been supervised by the military and Secret Service. But honestly, this doesn't even surprise me, because anything that involves the military has to be approved by the Department of Defense, which means that the government has to approve the script before they can even get into production.
Just think of the power of the combination of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and big data. So it's a combination of the different technologies which really bring the fundamental change. And finally, I think we have to be prepared for a world where we see a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological dimensions. So it will be a world integrating the physical, biological, and the digital dimensions. So it will be a new world. And I'm looking for a minister in 10 years. Probably it will be completely different from what it is now.
Did you know that one of the most famous paintings of Lincoln is actually a composite which places Abe's head on the Southern politician John Calhoun's body? This process of photo manipulation dates back to the 1850s, and it was used to trick people just like we use Photoshop today. And they could do this by adding negatives in a wet collodion process which would allow them to extract and mix multiple negatives together for a final image. This photograph is titled General Grant at City Point. This is a montage or a composite of several images and does not actually show General Ulysses S. Grant at City Point. 3 photos provided different parts of the portrait: the head from Grant at his Cold Harbor, Virginia headquarters, the horse and the man's body from Major General Alexander McDowell McCook, and the background from Confederate prisoners captured in the Battle of Fisher's Hill, Virginia. This photograph is dated 1902.
Would you believe me if I told you that it's literally documented that they used to host seances at the White House? The White House is literally haunted. Franklin Pierce was the 14th president of the United States, and after he and his wife lost their son in a train accident, the wife became desperate for answers. That's when she invited the Fox sisters, who were like a family of mediums, to the White House to host a seance so that she can communicate with him again. And that's just the beginning, because it wasn't until the Lincolns moved in that hosting seances actually became a regular occurrence. It's documented that the Lincolns hosted as many as 8 seances while they were in office. And the White House was never the same after this. After Lincoln was it's theorized that his soul got trapped inside the White House. So many people who have stayed at the White House have claimed to have seen Lincoln's ghost that he is officially known as the White House ghost. There's this story about Winston Churchill. So he's staying at the White House one night, and apparently one of his favorite ways to relax at night is to take a bath with a cigar and a glass of wine. So he's taking this bath in one of the White House suites, and he gets out. In order to go and get one of his cigars, he goes into the next room to get a match, and to his surprise, he sees President Lincoln leaning on the fireplace mantel. And embarrassed and naked, Churchill goes, "Mr. President, you seem to have caught me at a disadvantage." Lincoln turns around, looks at him, chuckles, and then just disappears.
This agency is going to create the vast weapon systems of the future. That is what DARPA does. They are always 20 years ahead of anything that you or I know. So any technology that is like, what the was that I just saw and you're not supposed to have seen, that's DARPA.
They were doing Neuralink in the 90s, right?
They are always doing things 20 years before you know about them, because they do what is called blue sky technology.
Blue sky research technology, yes.
But the point of this, when you say, is DARPA doing the most advanced technology? Maybe, but maybe there's another organization like NRO. I mean, people forget there are at least 17 intelligence agencies.
Walt Disney was the dark prince of Hollywood. If you closely analyze Disney movies, they're scattered with Masonic symbolism, mind control, indoctrination techniques, and sometimes even sorcery and black magic. Walt Disney was a demole, which is one of the starting positions in Freemasonry. He even created a club within Disney in which you have to pass several tests and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to join and stay in the club. It's called Club 33. In Freemasonry, the number 33 is one of the most important numbers and a rank granted to the top Masons.
Where does the consistent trope of underground cities of lizard people come from? On January 29, 1934, the Los Angeles Times reported that G. Warren Shufield, a respected engineer and explorer, had found catacombs under Los Angeles. The article was titled "Lizard People's Catacomb City Hunted," and they provided a detailed account of Shufield's findings. According to the article, Shufield was using ground-penetrating radar, a device featured in many of the photos taken of him. With this device, he was able to map out an entire city. The map featured in the article described a massive underground city stretching from the Central Library in downtown Los Angeles through Pasadena and stretching all the way into the mountains. He also claimed that his team had discovered massive stone doors leading to deeper chambers, along with carved hieroglyphs and golden plates. True or not, this story helped fuel the legend of underground cities of lizard people.
We have to achieve the SDGs in 10 years. I'm going to talk about that, but with a quick introduction to the Better Than Cash Alliance. We're hosted by the United Nations, and we are an alliance of governments and companies and international organizations that are each committed, each has to commit before they join the alliance, to moving away from cash to some form of digital option. We've got to solve this problem. And we have to solve it because we care about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Did you know that every single government in the world has committed to these? Every single government to agree to these. The government of Norway, the government of Australia, the government of Ethiopia, the government of Rwanda. And the timeline is 10 years from now.
Alright, so I'm sitting here playing Rocket League at the moment. Every time I'm here by myself, I swear this place is haunted. I've been f***ing around with Ouija boards, and I was stupid enough to bloody invite demons to possess me and because I didn't believe in it. But ever since then, every time I'm here by myself, I hear outside. So I'm playing Rocket League. Oh, did you hear that? Oh, what the? No way. No way. Hello? Is anybody here?
Like and comment for part 2.
Holy, what was that moving. Hello?
Right in front of me, we got the hoot owl. You guys know what the owl is?
Well, yeah, that's no.
Oh, no? Oh, we're just walking around and talking. I thought you saw it. We can walk away, though. We're just trying to learn what's going on with the owl.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't know?
The locals were immediately on guard.
You know anything about the Bohemian Grove?
I worked there before you.
Worked there? Oh, what did you see?
A lot of things that I cannot talk about.
Actually?
Yeah.
Can you give us, theoretically, what might you have seen if someone were to work there?
I cannot talk about that.
Sign a document?
Nope, that I cannot talk about.
Partake in anything?
Have a wonderful day, sir.
Okay. Wow.
Be careful, okay?
Be careful? Do you think we're dealing with things that are much more powerful?
Well, I can say.
What did he see?
You know anything about the Bohemian Grove?
Yeah, I worked there like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, I don't want to be on camera. Everyone here knew something about the Grove until they saw my little camera.
It's probably not a good place to be going unless you know what you're doing.
What do you mean?
There's a lot of rich, crazy people out there.
You're trying to get in?
My father was in.
Oh, he was in the club?
Yeah.
Who was he?
Mason.
Oh, he was a Mason.
39th.
Did you inherit his will? His Freemason will?
I can disclose that.
Okay. Is there anything we should know?
Probably not.
Are you part of the Illuminati?
Oh. Yeah.
Is that really the truth?
No.
Are you a part of the Illuminati? Yes. No, I'm not.
All the presidents that have, well, reigned in the United States have all been related. As it turns out, both Trump and Hillary Clinton are related to John of Gaunt, a 14th century royal. Gaunt was the first Duke of Lancaster, who was the son of King Edward III, according to my heritage. Trump is related through his mother, Mary Ann McLeod, back to his 17th grandfather, John Beaufort, while Clinton is related through her father and the Rodham family back to the 17th great-grandmother, Joan Beaufort. The two candidates are 19th cousins, and so they both have the right bloodlines to continue this lineage. Fascinating that the Bible doesn't speak about the presidents of the world, it speaks about the kings of the world. And it really, over the course of history, hasn't mattered which of the candidates has won, because the candidates have always both been in the same bloodline. Did you know all 44 US presidents have carried European royal bloodlines into office? 34 have been genetic descendants of just one person, Charlemagne, the brutal 8th century king of the Franks. That's a fascinating story, because Charlemagne is, of course, the one who was crowned emperor of the Roman Empire.
You want to see a messed up building? Just take a look at the Federal Reserve. Created by a group of bankers in 1913 after Jacob Astor mysteriously on the Titanic. It became the Central Bank of America. Well, they print money out of thin air and control our monetary system. And then they're saving money to the United States on interest. It's also home to the most stolen gold bars and more connections to the Freemasons than George Washington. No wonder why there's cameras everywhere. And the security detail with more manpower than a small third world country. This really has the power.
Facts.
Funny how they call it the Federal Reserve, but the bank literally has shareholders. People own this bank, and it owns us. Why is God okay? Why does this building exist?
Censored, here's the weird stuff I love. Imagine your vision is totally normal, and then one day you see demonic features everywhere on people only, just like this, what you see behind me. Now that's a reality for a man named Victor Shera. He has extremely rare yet terrifying disorder called PMO, and it's commonly known as, or now known because people didn't know about it at first. It's called the demon face syndrome. People with the condition see parts of other people's faces distorted in shape, texture, position, or color. For Shera, that means grotesque, grimace, elongated eyes, and deeply etched scars. Also pointed ears. There are 75 known cases of the disorder.
Did you know Apple just applied for a patent so that they can retrofit AirPods to read your mind?
Oh.
Or they didn't apply, they filed a patent. So what it is AirPods, they're fitting them with like electromagnetic sensors. And do you guys remember when we talked about they could hook a like brain machine up to a person and they could look at something and they could use AI to generate the picture?
Yeah.
So that technology, rather than a full helmet, they have successfully mapped via sensors in AirPods. They've successfully done the same thing. And so what they said, I was reading in neuroscience.com or something like that. I was reading an article and it said what they're able to do is read that sensor, and they said everybody's electromagnetic pulses are different. And so it's not just an immediate read what you're thinking and then regurgitate it. It's a process of learning. And so they mine and log all of the thoughts, all of the pulses. And so,
Are these in the current headphones?
Surely no.
Yeah. They may be testing stuff, who knows?
But they said, the article I found said they did it successfully 5 years.
Something dark is going on with the Shadow Work Journal. That is literally a demonic witch's grimoire. So the reason why the book is called Shadow Work is because it deals with the psychology of handling your shadow self. It comes from this idea called Jungian psychology, where you seek to bring balance and union between the conscious and unconscious parts of your mind. You have a personality that you show the public, and you have a shadow self, which is the part of you that remains hidden. And the purpose is to merge the two, bring out that hidden part of your personality. But this book is marketed as like therapy and dealing with your inner child. Now, on top of that, it's about doing mirror work.
An ancient arrowhead was found made from materials not from Earth. Originally, this thing was found in the 1800s, and it looked like iron that had been rusted, but only recently did scientists take a deeper look. The metal was not from Earth, and they're saying it definitely was from outer space due to its composition. I think it was from a meteorite that fell in what is modern-day Estonia. People gathered the remnants of this meteorite and sold it in pieces. Somehow, due to trade, it ended up in Switzerland because there was a really big trade route between Switzerland and a lot of the Eastern European countries at this time. They think this is where it was made into an arrowhead 3,000 years ago. Because this metal was so rare, they don't think this arrowhead was used for everyday hunting. And they're thinking that it belonged to someone of military status, but there's no way to say. I mean, this was 3,000 years ago. They're even suspecting that it had some sort of spiritual meaning, possibly. Or it could have been just for show. Again, there's no way to say it was 3,000 years ago, but they're doing more analysis to see where it came from.
I'm sure by now that many of you guys are familiar with the conspiracy theory that many of the elites and higher-ups in society are not actually human, they're amphibians or reptiles. And this video that I was tagged in is supposed proof of this. Behind me is a higher-up elite in society, the CEO of Pfizer, Albert Bourla. And specifically, people are referencing this very strange behavior that's going on with his neck. You can see that his neck almost moves up and down, very similar to how a bullfrog's would. And this is something that's seen with not just that clip, but this clip as well. You can see he's got movement on his neck. But this is certainly not proof because humans have something known as a larynx, which has muscles that allow it to move up and down. This can happen when people are nervous, this can just be a normal tic that they go through without even thinking about it, or it happens when you're talking. And if you go to the mirror right now, you can also simulate this. So do we have undisputed proof that this guy is a reptile?
All right, welcome back. Some Midnight Ride. We're riding. That had to do with the CIA and governments and the Illuminati being involved in our media, in our entertainment, in Hollywood. You know, satanic pedophiles run Hollywood. That's true. That's a fact. That's what that was about. So that's what we were watching on the Midnight Ride, but that's what we're doing. We're riding. It's a midnight ride. We're hanging out. So if you just got here, please take part in the show. Comment. Let me know what you think. We got 3 more videos to watch. We got a video coming up on CERN. We got a video coming up on fake news and how it's been used for centuries. And we got a video coming up on Tesla's most powerful weapon. So those are the videos we're going to watch on the Midnight Ride as we ride into April Fools. We go right from Easter, Ishtar, into April Fools. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? Just a little bit poetic. But yeah, it's a midnight ride. So no matter where you're at, you're in the right place. And no matter when you got here, you're right on time. Indigo said that they were late. You can't be late. There's no way. So smash them shits. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell so you get notified when we go live. And comment. Take part in the show. I'm going to get this back where I can see your comments. Drew says, look at the facial recognition studies on Obama versus Osama bin Laden. I'm going to look that up during the next video. Our next video has to do with fake news and how it's been used forever to manipulate us. It's nothing new, but so let's see. Osama bin Laden, Barack Obama. I'm going to look into this while we're watching this video. But this next one is from True Stream Media, a channel I really like a lot. And it's Melissa, who I like more than Aaron. Even though Aaron's videos are more fact-based and more fact-filled, I like Melissa. I can listen to Melissa talk all day. I hope you like her too. This is a video on fake news. We're going to watch this together here on the Midnight Ride in just a minute. But that's the next one we're going to watch. This is what we do. We hang out, we watch videos, we talk. Talk about all kinds of things. But come back in the morning, tomorrow morning, Morning Yank. You don't want to miss that. That's the morning show. I'm wondering why the comments are sitting still. Did that video blow your mind? Don't be quiet. It's a party. It's a Midnight Yank. A solo, but, same thing. I'm right here with you. So take part, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble. I'm going back and forth. I'm on all the platforms. So I'm right there with you on this ride. I want to hear from you. So take part in the comments. That helps the channel too. You'd be surprised. Liking, sharing, and commenting really does help us out. But like I said, I'll be over there hanging out with you. We're going to watch this video on fake news on the Midnight Ride.
I don't know. I don't think there is anything new under the sun. I really don't. And if that makes me a Debbie Downer, then fine. But I just don't, guys. In fact, there are times when things happen, and as they're happening, and everyone's like, ooh, it's a new thing. I'm like, oh, I bet it's not. I bet I can pull a history book off of my bookshelf right now and show you how it's not, and show you that we've done this before. We've done it before. We're doing it again. How many times are we going to have to do it? Case in point on mis and disinformation and fake news. Fake news is not a new concept that anybody came up with suddenly back during the 2016 election. All of a sudden, it seemed like that's what everyone was talking about back at that time. And agenda to control exactly what people think. This is not the first time that this type of censorship with this exact type of reasoning has been played on everyone. One of the reasons that we have the Bill of Rights, and one of the reasons the First Amendment is on there and it's first, is because this exact type of game was played on people before, in the lead up to the American Revolution. Case in point, proclamation by King Charles II from 1674, a proclamation to restrain the spreading of false news and licentious talking of matters of state and government. And it doesn't take that long to read, so I'm just going to read it to you. But tell me if this sounds at all familiar. And I might screw up a couple of these old-timey words, so just bear with me. Whereas of late many persons ill-affected to the government have assumed to themselves a liberty in their ordinary discourses to censure and defame the proceedings of state, whereby they endeavor to create and nourish the minds of his Majesty's good subjects an evil opinion of things they understand not, and further to promote their seditious ends, they do daily invent false news, and spread the same abroad among the people, to the great scandal of his Majesty's government. Whereof his Majesty taking notice, and in particular of that very false report of an intention to dissolve this present Parliament, which hath not been under deliberation, his Majesty seeing no cause to change his resolutions touching their meeting. What? It's awkward. His Majesty therefore looks upon the spreaders of that report as persons seditiously inclined and ill-affected to his service. And considering that by the laws of this realm great and heavy penalties are to be inflicted upon all such as shall be found to be spreaders of false news, or promoters of any malicious calumnies against the state by their ordinary and common discourses to stir up dislike in the people of his Majesty's person and the established government, whereof his Majesty is sensible, the persons offending are not ignorant. So that's a way to write all of that. Nevertheless, that all men may be left without excuse who shall not hereafter contain themselves within that modest and dutiful regard which they ought. His Majesty hath thought fit, by the advice of his council, to publish this his royal proclamation, and doth hereby forewarn and straitly command all his loving subjects of what state or condition soever they be, from the highest to the lowest, that they presume not henceforth by any writing or speaking to utter or publish any false news or reports, or to intermeddle with the affairs of state or government, or with the persons of any of his Majesty's counselors or ministers in their common and ordinary discourses, and they will answer the contrary at their utmost perils. And whereas all bold and irreverent speeches touching matters of this high nature are punishable not only in the speakers but the hearers also, unless they do speedily reveal the same unto some of his Majesty's privy council, or some other his Majesty's judges or justices of the peace, his Majesty doth hereby further declare that he will proceed with all severity not only against such persons as shall use any bold or unlawful speeches of this nature, but also against those persons who shall be present where such speeches are used, without revealing the same in due time, his Majesty being resolved to suppress this unlawful and undutiful kind of discourse by a most strict and exemplary punishment of all such offenders as shall hereafter be discovered. I mean, doesn't that just reek of weakness, though? I mean, no one's allowed to criticize you or your government, pretty much, like at all. And if they do, it's at their utmost perils. And they'll be subject to a most strict and exemplary punishment. Which, by the way, I mean, we're not just talking prison. They did a lot of nasty stuff to people. They were branding people's faces and cutting people in the face and all kinds of stuff. It was nasty, okay, some of the stuff they did to people back then. Ew. But notice it starts by mentioning that people shouldn't talk of Charles II dissolving Parliament, which people obviously were talking about and thought he might do, which he actually did end up doing, just like his father did. But he did it in 1681, and then he went ahead and ruled the entire country alone until his death in 1685. So, was that really false news or just a conspiracy theory that hadn't come true yet? And just on an aside, it's nice how this proclamation makes it a point to delineate between the loving subjects, quote, from the highest to the lowest. Must be really nice if you're considered the lowest, isn't it? It's nice. So no bold or irreverent speech, just at all, I guess. And after Aaron showed me this one, I actually found another version of this same thing from Charles II from 2 years earlier. But in this one, it stipulated, quote, and because all bold and irreverent speeches touching matters of this high nature are punishable, not only in the speakers but in the hearers also, unless they do speedily reveal the same unto some of his Majesty's privy council or some other of his Majesty's judges or justices of the peace, within the space of 24 hours next after such words are spoken. So this one says the same thing as that one, but that one put a 24-hour notice on it. So after you hear, first of all, you can't even hear the bold or irreverent speech. Not in public or in private at all. But if you do happen to be a person who hears the speech, if you don't run and tell on that person to somebody within 24 hours, then you get the most strict and exemplary punishment also. Because you heard it and didn't tell. You didn't snitch. So that whole see something, say something thing.
You see something suspicious in the parking lot or in the store, say something immediately.
That's also not new, is it? No, it's not. Or actually, I guess in Britain, it's see it, say it, sorted.
See it, say it, sorted.
But whatever. None of this is new. It's all old. If you heard some false news, quote unquote, which really is just anything criticizing the king or making other people upset about the government at all, sounds like, then you better turn that person in within 24 hours or else you're getting the strict and exemplary punishment. This one also includes coffee houses and public or private meetings too. So basically nowhere. There's nowhere that you can be hearing of this speech ever. That's not a liberty. They made sure to point out that's not a liberty for you to talk about this at all, publicly or privately. In fact, I don't know if he was just putting these out all the time or what, but I found another one for the following year in 1675 that was a proclamation for the suppression of coffee houses. Because, quote, diverse, false, malicious, and scandalous reports are devised and spread abroad there. So the king declared that coffee houses must be, quote, put down and suppressed. So at least he's admitting over and over that the whole purpose of this is to suppress speech about him. You cannot talk about him. You just can't. Or his government. Or basically anything that would upset people about him. This, by the way, is a huge part of the reason why people in the lead up to the American Revolution were writing anonymously under pseudonyms. This right here. So it's actually kind of pathetic and sad that you have warmongers like Nikki Haley calling for everyone on social media to be verified with their full name.
Every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say.
And no anonymous accounts, because literally our nation, the one that she's running to be president of, literally wouldn't exist. This nation would not exist without people writing anonymously about their grievances against the king and his tyrannical government.
And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
And they know their pastor and their family member is going to see it.
Which they had to do anonymously, because otherwise I guess they'd be subject to the most strict and exemplary punishment, which back at that time was putting you on a boat so you couldn't even face a jury of your peers. You got put back over the ocean to face a bunch of prejudiced people against you in another continent, which is one of the long train of abuses that was specifically listed in the Declaration of Independence. And this isn't even the last one of these either, because there's an even longer proclamation that was put out later by King James II in October of 1688 that took most of the language from the Charles II proclamations, but then added a bunch more to it, that you were literally evil if you, quote, utter or publish any words or things that stir up the people's dislike of our person or the established government. So he stipulated further, if you make people not like the king by saying anything that will stir them up to not like the king, they don't even have to hate the king, although hatred was also mentioned, but if you just say something that makes other people not like him, right, then you're in trouble. And also, quote, men have assumed to themselves a liberty, not only in coffee houses, but in other places and meetings, both public and private, to censure and defame the proceedings of state by speaking evil of things they understand not, which they weren't actually even allowing the people to know what was going on in the government, except what was allowed to be released in the press and the press was allowed to print. And there were certain people that were licensed to do that, and that was it. So people weren't even allowed to know it. So to say they don't understand it is just kind of a slap in the face, because you're not even letting them know what's going on in the first place. How do you expect them to understand it? But you weren't even allowed to talk in private. So they were trying to control what you talk about privately, not even publicly. In private. So nowhere. You're not allowed to talk about anything that's going on politically at all, anywhere, basically at all, unless what you have to say is glowing, flowing, wonderful things about how awesome everything is. And we know this went over very well for King James II, because the following month he was deposed in the Glorious Revolution, which led to the 1689 British Bill of Rights that our American Bill of Rights 100 years later would be based off of. So you're just not allowed to say anything about the king, the court, the king's government, which is appointed by the king. Nothing. You're not allowed to say anything. Now, they called it false news. They didn't call it fake news, but it's the same freaking thing. And this isn't even the first time they did this either, because they did it again back in 1275, if you could believe that, in the Statutes of Westminster. They had one for chapter 34. There were 51 chapters in the Statutes of Westminster, and this one is number 34. None shall report slanderous news whereby discord may arise. And this one says, for as much as there have been oftentimes found in the country devisers of tales, whereby discord or occasion of discord hath many times arisen between the king and his people, or great men of this realm, For the damage that hath and may thereof ensue, it is commanded that from henceforth none be so hardy to tell or publish any false news or tales whereby discord or occasion of discord or slander may grow between the king and his people or the great men of the realm, and he that doth so shall be taken and kept in prison until he hath brought him into the court which was the first author of the tale. They've done this again and again. The state trying to be the arbiter of truth goes back a very long way, and it's one of the things that our whole country is completely based upon fighting against, okay? Straight up. But this is one of the reasons why we have the First Amendment and why it's first. Because before this, you weren't allowed to say jack about the king at all. You were not allowed to criticize him or have any critical words to say about his government or anything that was going on. So if you had a problem with that, too bad. Because if you say anything, that's false news. You are being licentious. You're slandering people. Public servants. Of course, we call them public servants now. Here in America, we call them that. There was no such thing as a government of the people. This was not the government of the people. This was the government of the king. And there was no such concept before the American Revolution as taxation without representation. Before the Stamp Act, there was no such thing as the idea of taxation without representation. It was all taxation without representation in the terms of what we know. That was a new concept when the colonists started talking about that during the Stamp Act, which was 10 years before the American Revolution started. The colonists brought up taxation without representation. The people over in Britain were like, what are they even talking about? Because that is not a thing. We didn't have that as a thing. Because you just did what you were told, and you better not say anything negative about it. Because if you tried to, then you get slapped with this proclamation about restraining the spreading of false news. But this is the same thing that it's been the whole time. And it has always been the same thing. And that is when a tyranny is going on, when a corruption is happening in the governments, they don't want people to say anything about it. They don't want people to have the ability to speak on it. They don't want people to lose faith, right? Even if that faith is ill-begotten and not deserved. So they don't want people to be able to say things that are going to make other people mad about what is going on. I mean, that's basically it. That's the whole summation. They just don't. So this happened. And it continued to go on. And I don't even think today the UK still, I mean, they don't have free speech there. Canada still doesn't have free speech. America is probably the only place on earth that actually has free speech in the way that we have it lined out. And yes, I know they've been chipping away at the Bill of Rights and using the Constitution as toilet paper for a while now. But we have got to try to preserve these things because otherwise we're going back to some pretty freaking tyrannical times. You think things are bad now. Let's take it back to 1674. That was a tyrannical absolute monarch. He was doing crazy stuff, okay? That's a whole history lesson I could give you about Charles II when they tried to bring the monarchy back after Cromwell. It was ridiculous, okay? The dude was dissolving parliament, fighting wars that were not beneficial for any reason whatsoever, and just wasting money on it, signing secret treaties with the King of France. The Clarendon Codes were passed under this guy, if you haven't heard about those. It made it so that all municipal officials had to take Anglican communion, excluded all nonconformists from public office. They also made the Book of Common Prayer compulsory in religious service. And if the clergy refused to comply with that, those people were forced to resign their living. It forbade any meetings of unauthorized worship of more than 5 people who were not members of the same household. So dissenting religious groups were forbade from meeting each other. They also had something called the 5 Mile Act, where nonconformist ministers were forbidden from coming within 5 miles of incorporated towns. They were also forbidden from teaching in schools. And that wasn't even rescinded until 1812. So that's another thing that our First Amendment has. It has a freedom of religion. We, in this country, have the separation of church and state. The crown is the church over there. And back in the day, they were forcing people to worship the way they wanted them to, which was all based around praying for the king and basically taxing people without representation of their spiritual energy the same way they tax people without representation financially. That's basically what it was. Having all kinds of illegitimate kids, which, I mean, whatever, that's his business, but he was trying to get them special titles and stuff and having everybody pay for it. And I mean, just all kinds of stuff he was doing that was just kind of, he wasn't like the lovable rogue one. I know people try to say that, but when you actually read about it, he sucked. He was a suck king. Like, maybe he didn't suck as bad as his dad did, but we all know what happened to that guy, okay? Just saying, all right? His kid was not that much better. Go read a history book. You're going to know about that. Sorry. I love my people over in England. I love you guys. I do. And I think you have a really cool, magical little country. But that guy was a douche. He sucked. And you would not want to live under him today. He had that crazy ass, 80s rock hair. You would not want to be a subject in his realm. You would think it sucks, okay? If you had to go back in time and live there, you would hate it. So anyway, it's not just that they're trying to control political discourse. They're literally trying to control the status quo of whatever system is in place. Nothing can change if people aren't allowed to talk about it, if people aren't allowed to report on it, if people aren't allowed to share information about it. How can anything change under this kind of proclamation, under this kind of system? And it's all the same stuff. They're just doing it again today. It's just now we got more technology so they can more efficiently silence people online. But it's the same exact thing. It's not even a new idea. These people aren't even creative. This isn't even creativity we're talking about. This is just recycling of old ideas from old tyrannical governments. Now they're going to recycle that in the new tyrannical government, because the National Science Foundation under the Biden administration has given $5 million to this thing that has come up with this program called Course Correct. And I mean, could you think of a more Orwellian name? I don't think that I really could. I mean, maybe if I tried, but I think they did a really good job there on their own. But if you listen to what they're saying here, I'm just going to play a really quick clip here.
Without a common set of facts to move from, it's very difficult for us to solve the biggest problems that we have as a society. Course Correct is trying to nudge us into the direction of understanding and agreeing upon the verifiable truth for the foundational issues that we need to sort through as a society in order to solve the big problems that are currently vexing us.
We are building the core machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence technology to identify misinformation using linguistic, network science, and temporal behavior, so that we can very accurately identify what's misinformation, where misinformation is spreading, who is consuming the misinformation, and what the reach of the misinformation.
The misinformation is coming from a certain part of the country, or it is people with a certain perspective or political view who are sharing a certain misinformation. You want to be able to tailor the correction based on that.
So we need to have, air quotes, a common set of facts, and they're going to nudge people into agreement on that. Every time governments get tyrannical, every time they get super corrupt, they try to shut down people's ability to speak about it, because that is one of the only ways they can keep the tyranny going. Because if too many people get too upset about it, it can't remain that way. It has to change. Something has to happen. I'm not even exaggerating. I am being 100% literal with you guys when I say censorship is mind control.
And the agenda to control exactly what people think.
It is the control of your perception of reality to decide what you can and cannot talk about. That is what that is. To say we're going to have a nudge everyone into a common fact basis or whatever, you could put that right into a George Orwell novel and it would be right at home in there. In fact, that whole video would be. It's really, really creepy that these people don't seem to realize that they sound like they just woke up, got dressed, and walked out of a dystopic novel. Why would anybody want to be someone who does this to people? I don't understand that. How misguided do you have to be to not realize how bad it is what you're trying to do to people's consciousness? And it's all for control. It's all for the control of the perceptions of reality. And it always has been, historically speaking, it has always been this way. And I guess this is just a fight we're going to continue to have to keep having. And we're still fighting for it. It's not over yet. None of this is over yet. Doesn't matter how many algorithms they have. Use all these algorithms and machine learning and AI and all this stuff, but it just because they got that, it's still the same tyranny that it always was. It's just dressed up in new tech. So we have to keep fighting for the First Amendment. You don't even have the other amendments if you don't have the first one. It's not even possible. The whole thing breaks down. And it's time that everyone starts remembering why this is so important. We're like the last bastion of this stuff, guys. And if we don't fight for it, we're going backwards. I mean, that's what this is. You could take this proclamation I just read to you and basically slap it down over any of these people talking about mis and disinformation, and they want everybody to have one way of looking at everything. You know, it's not like they're saying, hey, we need you all to agree. Is this air you're breathing right now? We want everyone to agree it's air, because we can't exist in society until we all agree what color the sky is. I mean, it's not like that. It's something much more insidious and sinister. And I'm just saying we have had to fight for these things tooth and nail for hundreds of years. Look at this. I mean, this goes back to 1275, and we are devolving as a people if we let something like the Bill of Rights go. It's just nothing new under the sun. I don't know how many more times we're going to have to loop this for people to realize how absolutely important this is. Yeah. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. That was Melissa from True Stream Media talking about how we've been being manipulated forever. And when the government really gets tyrannical, when they really start putting the boot on your neck, that's when they start worrying about fake news, false information, wanting to control the narrative, and police what you think, what you talk about, what you say, and what you do. Now, that's being done in an extreme way right now, to the max. Amanda, you got it. Amanda says I should do a conspiracy theories and chill on Tartarian castles. I want to do one on Tartaria, Tartarian Empire, because what I think Tartaria is really the pre-Diluvian world. I think the world pre-flood was much more advanced than we even imagined. You know, I think that there were things in the pre-flood world that would blow your mind. I think it was completely different technology. I think the Earth itself was completely different. The atmosphere and the trees and the plants and the animals and everything was bigger and badder. And it just was a whole different world. It even says that, you know, and lifespans even dramatically decreased after the flood. People were living like 700-800 years. It only stands to reason that it was a very populated world, you know, because we can't really determine how long they were around for, you know, and living to those lengths, having the amount of children they were having. I think there were more people on the planet then than there are now. You know, we think of civilization starting out of the cradle of life and spreading out because that's where it did post-flood. I'm talking about pre-flood. It's a whole different ball game, and we don't really know how long they were playing it. So you live in those kind of lifespans, having that many children. The world could have been very populated, over 10 billion people, with advanced technology and these structures. Like, that's what made her bring up Tartaria. These buildings that we didn't build. They did not build these with horses and buggies and chisels, hammers, these intricate, detailed castles or cathedrals, these things that there's no way they built in the way they tell you they did. They absolutely couldn't have. Amanda's talking about levitation and use of mercury and frequency. These are the things they did. Sacred geometry, these are all over these structures. So we got to get into that. You're right. We're going to do that on the Conspiracy Theories and Chill. Anything else you guys want to see? Upcoming Conspiracy Theories and Chills? So we know we got to get into Tartaria. We got to really dive into that and break it down. And this coming up Wednesday, I got to set up the event. Harsh Med and Jackie Hyde are coming on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, and we're going to be talking the Olympic Titanic swap. The Titanic never actually sank. That's the Olympic at the bottom of the ocean, and we're going to be breaking that down Wednesday night on Conspiracy Theories and Chill. So make sure you come back for that. Harsh Med, Jackie Hyde, Conspiracy Theories and Chill, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Everywhere you're at right now. Jones says just think of how fast 20 or 30-foot giant could travel across vast areas. There were giants in those days. And after. It does say and after. I wish Tony was here. You know, he could let you know. We're going to get into some of that hidden technology stuff in the last video. The last video has to do with Tesla's most powerful weapon. We got 2 videos left for you. Got one coming up on CERN, my video. This is a original Conspiracy Theories and Chill video coming up next on CERN called ALICE, a CERN project. This has to do with the Large Hadron Collider. They're going to be firing back up on April 8th in conjunction with the solar eclipse. They want to capture dark matter during the solar eclipse. I wonder what will change. You know, what Mandelas will be triggered by CERN. Amanda's getting out of here. Thanks for stopping by, Amanda, and look out for that Tartaria video. It's coming. I'm going to get that to you. But this is a midnight ride. We're riding. We got 2 more videos to go. You know, 2 more videos to go in the midnight ride. Yeah, NASA's going to be shooting missiles at the eclipse. Yeah, shooting rockets, testing out the firmament, you know, doing everything they can. They've been trying to break through the firmament since the beginning of time. I knew what you meant. You know how often your phone fucks you over? You know how often your phone fucks you over? I swear to Christmas, I'm not saying luck, I'm not saying duck. I guarantee you I'm saying fuck. It's my favorite word. My phone thinks I'm saying luck, duck, truck, anything other than what I'm trying to say. And it keeps changing it. I have to keep backing up, retyping it. And it constantly keeps doing it. It does it with all kinds of things. But then it does it with things like, you know, you write missiles, changes it to middles. Like, you couldn't have meant missiles. What are you, a terrorist? Your phone's censoring you. Everything's censoring you. You know, Melissa was talking about that in the video. The censorship. It's really dangerous. People don't think about it. You don't really think about it. They do it a little bit at a time. You're being silenced. The truth is being eliminated. Any dissenting voices are being shut down. That's very dangerous. Extremely. It'll be silent when they make their final moves. There'll be no way to speak out against it, and no one left to. Everyone that would will be eliminated, and every way to do it will be gone. Yeah, Joan. They're going to war with the sky during the eclipse and lighting up CERN. So it's going to be pretty fun. But we're going to learn a little more about CERN here in a little bit. I got a video coming up from the Conspiracy Theories and Chill Library, Alice, a CERN project. We're going to watch that in a minute. And then after that, we got a video from the Y-Files on Tesla's most powerful weapon. So there's a lot more to come in the Midnight Ride. But real quick, we got a little tight-knit group here. I want to ask your advice. How do you quit Like, I want to quit doing something that I've been doing, and I've been doing it for a person, so it's like a side gig type of thing. How do you quit? Do you just like, I don't want to do this anymore? Is it that simple? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because I kind of want to. Let me know. Is it that easy? Or do you just like 2 weeks notice or something? How's it work? I was listening to Herbalations, Jackie Hyde's show. You know, in Canada, you have to give 2 weeks notice because if you don't, they can hold the last 30 days of your salary. I never heard of that before. Do we have any places in the United States that are like that? Because I live in Missouri, and we're a right to work state, so you can be fired on the spot. You can also quit on the spot. But apparently, there are places that exist, and I don't know if we have them in the United States, where you have to pay your salary if you just quit. That's insane. But then, if you give your 2 weeks notice and they just let you go, they have to pay you for the 2 weeks. Gene says it's that simple. Man, it's just gotten so complicated. I got all kinds of stuff I got to give back. I don't want to do it anymore. It struck me last night. I was out in the field with the big one, and he started chasing something. And he does that sometimes. And he just kept running, trying to run and pull me. And it went on for like 5 minutes. And I'm just like, he's not listening to anything I say. And I just don't want to do this anymore. You know, I'm tired of fighting a 260-pound dog that doesn't listen to me. You know what I mean? It's fucked up. You can't have a dog that big that's not extremely well trained. I don't think. I don't think it's responsible to. But I don't feel comfortable walking it. You know, I'm always worried that I'm going to come around the corner and there's going to be another animal, someone else walking their dog. And now I'm in the middle of a dog fight because they can't stand other animals and they won't listen to me when they're, you know, wanting to do whatever they want to do. Or he'll just lay down. They call it quitting on you. He'll just lay down in the field and won't get up. And you can't make him. He weighs 30 pounds more than I do. The female one is awesome. She doesn't ever give me any trouble. Matter of fact, she doesn't even want to be outside for very long. Her walks are very fast. He is a constant pain in the ass. Good boy, you know, good dog. It's not his fault. He just has been used to getting his way for a long time and used to manipulating people and used to being real big and strong. And it's just gotten out of hand. And I don't like it. You know, I was fighting him last night, and I don't even know what he saw. I couldn't see it. You know, his eyes are better than mine. But whatever it was, I told him no and pulled him, caged him, said his name over and over again. He wouldn't stop. And I was just the whole time going, this is not worth it, dude. What if this was like around the side of the building and this was someone and their dog? And I'm fighting this beast. Joan says it's a liability issue for me. Is it really? Could somebody sue me? If that big beast would attack somebody or their dog, could they sue me? Could they take me to the people's court? I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You know, I think I'm in over my head with it. And with this, I don't got a lawyer. I don't want to have to lawyer up. You know what I mean? But this is a midnight ride. And, you know, I don't want to scare everybody off. We got more videos to come. We got a video on CERN coming up on the midnight ride and a video on Tesla's most powerful weapon. But if you guys are ready, I'm going to start this video on CERN up. And what? I don't need that. I don't want that. No, 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 no. All right, we're going to start this video on CERN up, and I'll be right here with you on the midnight ride. So I'm going to come over in the comments. No matter where you're at, be looking for me. And it's the midnight ride. Check it out. This is a CERN video that I made. Welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill, y'all. On this episode, we are going to begin to unpack our series on CERN. I thought that we should start CERN out with what they are best known for currently, the ALICE project. Now, ALICE is an acronym for a Large Ion Collider Experiment. Now, it is one of the largest experiments in the world devoted to research in the physics of matter at an infinitely small scale. Large as in 40 countries, 173 institutes, 1,900 known members. They are not kidding when they say that this project is large. The ALICE project is a huge undertaking, in fact. Now, the main goal of the ALICE project is to characterize the physical properties of the quark-gluon plasma, a state of matter that they believe was created under the extreme conditions of temperature and energy density created in nuclear collisions done at the Large Hadron Collider. Now, such conditions are believed to have existed up to a few millionths of a second after the Big Bang, before quarks and gluons were bound to form protons and neutrons. Recreating this primordial state of matter in the laboratory and understanding how it evolves, they believe will allow them to shed light on questions about how matter is organized and the mechanisms that confine the completely made-up concept of quarks and gluons. You see, they made up fake words to avoid the one that they can't say even as they masquerade around as him. God. That's the word that they won't say. I will, though, and I'll say it a lot throughout our CERN project, I think. Anyway, the ALICE project, and much of CERN's agenda, in fact, is to directly offend God while trying to undo and alter his very creation. And I am serious. They want to play God. They won't say it, but that's exactly what they are saying and attempting to do. They want to make a mini Big Bang. You know, the bullshit narrative they give us as to how life and everything else came to be. The thing they base literally all of their other bullshit on. You know the one. The theory that nothing exploded nowhere and created everything. That one. And then they want to study how Big Bangs, which we just established that they made up, create things in life, etc., on and on. To put it plainly, they want to study how God creates by attempting to recreate the circumstances in which they think it all took place. Now, before we go any further, let me say just one thing. I know that all of this sounds insane, and I wish that I was making it all up, but this is very real. It's happening right now, and they are even planning a 10 times larger version of ALICE that they plan to launch in 2040. The second thing that I'd like to say in the very first of our CERN series is that they are waging war with God through CERN, and they will lose. So, if y'all are ready, I'd like to begin our look into CERN by going into the rabbit hole of the ALICE project. Let me let CERN tell you what they say it is.
We are here in the clean room of the ALICE TPC, being right behind me, and I will introduce to you today the ALICE high-level trigger project. But before we go into details, I want to show you a few numbers which are relevant for the understanding. Just take the TPC right here. It has about 320,000 analog channels on either side, which are digitized at 10 bits and 10 megahertz altogether. That makes a data stream of 3 terabytes per second. There are other detectors in ALICE, for instance the TRD, which even produces 17 terabytes per second. This is far more than can be recorded by any existing computer system or storage system today. On the other hand, the governing principle of the physics behind is pure statistics. So many events happen quite frequently, and it's sufficient to record a certain number of them, and any more are not interesting. So the idea is to select particular events out of the overall ensemble. And this is the purpose of a trigger. It selects the data coming from all the various detectors, and in case of the high-level trigger, it does a full analysis of all events coming in.
That made no sense. And I know that. Look, the science is going to go over your heads, but if you listen closely, it is because it goes over their heads too. In fact, their heads are so far up their own asses at CERN that they spew nonsense with a confidence that I've not ever seen before in my whole life. It's frighteningly fascinating. Let me show you what I mean. This is a CERN scientist explaining some of the technology of the Large Hadron Collider, specifically the FOSS spectrometer.
I'm a professor from the Kurchatov Institute in Moscow, Russia, and I'm the project leader of the FOSS spectrometer of the ALICE experiment. FOSS is actually the abbreviation of the photon spectrometer, and that is why it is called FOSS. And this is one of the main detectors of the ALICE experiment. Actually, the main purpose of this FOSS spectrometer is to detect electromagnetic radiation from the core gluon plasma object, which will be created, or fireball, which will be created during the lead-lead collision at the LHC. And this is a very important signal of the core gluon plasma, of any object actually. And so the main goal of this detector is to determine the temperature of the initial stages of the fireball, or hopefully the plasma, the core gluon plasma, by measuring the spectrum of the photons which are irradiated by this fireball. And it is situated here at the bottom part of the ALICE detector, and it looks like that. You can see it here. It consists of 5 independent modules, and the basic unit of the photon spectrometer is so-called crystal detector unit, which is lead tungstate crystals, which I assume you have seen already before. And then we have this photo readout of avalanche photo diode, or APD, with the sensitive preamplifier. And the FOSS module consists of 5 such so-called FOSS detector consists of 5 such so-called FOSS modules.
I do like that he's just so damn Russian that he can't even sell the nonsense correctly, but he does do his very best to attempt to do it. See, this is their magic device that they have built to try to study the many big bangs that they create, in order to study them, to try to understand how reality works, because they can't. They can't figure it out. Most things are empty space, and they don't know how that is, and how they stay solid, and how they sit on top of each other, and they don't understand anything, really. When you listen to them talk, you find out that's true. But that reason for that is they can't accept God as the answer to the question. So they insert crazy amounts of nonsense in order to fill that enormous void that is left by removing the correct answer from the equation. But they know that too, though. And it's very clear that they do. They know exactly what they're doing at CERN. And it's very in your face. They don't hide it. They're right out in front about it, in fact. I was telling the story of CERN to Zach, and I was trying to get him to understand it, but he didn't get it. And it wasn't because I wasn't explaining it right. It's because it's crazy until you understand that they are actually trying to do what I'm saying they're trying to do. They are trying to split the veil, for instance. They are trying to bring entities through from other dimensions. What are you hearing when you hear those things? Because they say them. They say those things. They say things like that. They say that's what they're going to do. Create a big bang. They say that the 10 times larger one will be able to create one matching the Big Bang. They think they're going to have that much power. You know, what if this is our Tower of Babel, our Times of Noah event, where we try to pull something off again, where we try to touch the sun and defy God and spit in his face? What if that's this? The images that are playing out on the screen right now are taken from CERN's own promotional propaganda and a ritual that actually took place on the most high-profile area on their own complex, in front of that giant Shiva statue. And it was even being filmed from within their very own building. Now, the ritual that they deny is a real ritual, because they no longer deny that it happened. It is a real video, they admit that. They just say now that it's a prank. But this slick demonic movie filmed at CERN that you're going to also be seeing clips from here, they own that project 100%. They're even proud of that one. Well, it's just art, you know. Just a metaphor, really. It's not literal at all. Except it is. Like, watch it. Watch the whole thing. You know, look at the clips I'm showing from it. You can see it's a ritual to a demon to open a portal. It's a dance even. It's Luciferian 100%. This is in direct defiance of God. But they say it ain't. And they do a lot of that at CERN. They're trying to undo the fabric of reality. And they think that we can recreate and study the creation event. You know, the one that they made up the word Big Bang to explain away. And the nowhere, nothing, everything, nonsense shit. That. But they're not Luciferian in their agenda, no. They don't want to defy God. They make many creation events. And they just do it at will. And study them, but they don't want to defy God. They're not claiming to be like God at all. Or, for instance, the giant Shiva statue that the supposed fake ritual is happening in front of, for instance. Very high-profile goddess of destruction statue out in front of the place with the toy that they think can break down the God particle that is holding everything in existence together to destroy reality as we know it. You know, up becomes down, black becomes white. Everything stops being solid. Who in the hell knows what? But we aren't maniacs bent on freeing demons here at CERN. But we say we're going to bring things through from other dimensions. Well, what are we talking about? We aren't trying to split the veil. But oh wait, we are. A CERN scientist said those words in an official CERN propaganda video that they wanted to be able to split the veil. Now what do you mean by that? I couldn't believe it, but they say a lot of crazy things, those CERN scientists. And they also heavily play up the occult while simultaneously downplaying it, kind of like they're rubbing the truth in your face. They talk out of both sides of their mouth constantly at CERN. But for now, guys, let's just get back to our current rabbit hole here at CERN for a bit. The Alice Project. What do they, CERN, say they're seeking to do with the Alice Project? What are their goals, in their words? I'm going to let them tell you, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about this whole thing. We're going to wrap it up, and I want to talk to you guys about it. I want to hear what y'all think about this.
Particles collide at nearly the speed of light to study the quarks and other particles. Many of these particles only existed in the early universe for a fraction of a second after the Big Bang, when all the energy transformed into matter. In CERN's accelerators, we can recreate conditions that existed just after the Big Bang and shed light on such questions as, why do particles have mass? What is the nature of dark matter in the universe? Why did matter triumph over antimatter in the first moments of the universe, making our existence possible? What was the state of matter just after the Big Bang? 4 gigantic instruments called particle detectors will study the data from the LHC collisions in search of the answers to these fundamental questions. The experimental and theoretical study of these conditions allows us to understand the fundamental laws of nature and to unveil the ultimate mysteries that govern our universe. In the course of their research, CERN scientists have often come across discoveries that have affected our everyday life. The technology used for particle detectors is at the origin of security scanning equipment and several medical applications. And the World Wide Web was invented at CERN in 1990 by the British scientist Tim Berners-Lee. The web soon grew beyond the world of particle physics and has become our primary repository of information, changing and improving the way people interact and communicate. To treat these massive amounts of data produced by the Large Hadron Collider, physicists, together with experts from industry, are building a web of cooperative computing called the Grid. The Grid will allow thousands of research centers and universities to share their data storage resources and computing power, transforming the internet into a giant global supercomputer and building capacity for the science of tomorrow.
The next step in the hunt for new physics is to build an even bigger machine.
People expected for 40 years before the Higgs was discovered that the Higgs could not be a lonely elementary particle. It would have to come along with a lot of other things in order to give a coherent, sort of rational explanation for the origin of its mass. And the big surprise since July 4th, 2012, when the Higgs was triumphantly discovered, is that that has not happened. So that's really sort of 4 decades of a certain paradigm for what's going on with the physics associated with the Higgs that has not worked out the way theorists imagined that it would. And that's kind of fascinating. I think the last time something of this degree of surprise happened to theoretical physics was probably a little over 100 years ago. What nature has in mind for what the Higgs is about is something different than what theorists had in mind. While theorists are very confused about it, the program for experimentalists is completely clear. When you run into a kind of elementary particle you've never seen before, you've never seen anything like it anywhere in physics before, you just put the damn thing under a microscope and you study it to death.
It's pretty remarkable that we need to build enormous machines that produce an incredible amount of energy to probe the smallest things in the universe. And the push towards higher collision energies to discover new particles is connected to Albert Einstein's famous equation E equals mc squared.
There's an equivalence here between energy on one side and mass on the other side. When we collide two particles, we gain access to the kinetic energy they carry, and out of this kinetic energy, new particles can be made according to Einstein's relation. And of course, the higher the energy that we bring into this collision, the higher the mass of a particle that is forming out of this energy can be.
To get more juice out of the machine, CERN shut the LHC down for performance upgrades. They're working on cranking up the luminosity.
Luminosity is a measure for the quality of a collider, and in some sense it tells you how many collisions per second this collider can provide.
When two of the elementary particles have kind of a head-on collision, and you can tell that that happened because the results of the collisions come out at larger angles relative to the beams. But it's still an incredibly messy and kind of complicated environment. And even when we produce new elementary particles like the Higgs, they don't come out wearing a name tag saying, I am a Higgs. They decay in a blink of an eye. It's the results of those decays that then our experimental colleagues have to sort of sift through, like looking for a needle in a haystack in order to actually see the evidence.
Scientists believe that a second run of the LHC could produce or detect miniature black holes, which they argue could point to entire universes hidden away in higher dimensions folded into our reality. It all comes down to some pretty theoretical science known as gravity's rainbow. I know, it sounds awesome. The basic idea is that gravity doesn't bend light equally, but instead affects each wavelength proportionately. To summarize the paper, this means that earlier attempts to find miniature black holes in the LHC weren't using enough power because the scales had shifted around these objects. Now the LHC will be powered to its highest ever energy levels, about double those of its last run. And if these scientists are right, the new run could uncover black holes tucked away in dimensions beyond the 4 that we interact with in our daily lives. As soon as more information or alien monsters come out of the hunt for miniature black holes, we will let you know.
So there's some of the science from the CERN science perspective for you guys. It's confusing as hell, and you have to listen closely because they never fully say it. But did you hear it? Over and over again. I heard it. They are messing with things that they don't even almost understand, and they clearly want to attempt to play God. This article here on screen is actually about one of their physicists worrying of the evil that is being done by them at CERN. Listen to this from the piece. Dr. Edward Mantle, a specialist in particle and subatomic research who studies very, very small particle interaction at CERN, ALICE, was involved in an incident on January 15, 2014 at CERN that may have secretly changed reality as we know it. Well, he's worried that it did anyway. It could have, he says. He thinks that it did. It is what they're trying to do there. Did they take us to another dimension? Have they brought entities through from another reality? They think that Alice can open portals and take us to other dimensions. They think they can intermingle dimensions even. They think that they can alter God's creation at will. They are wrong, dead wrong, but so is what they're messing with. CERN is an evil entity with unclean intentions, loosely pretending to be science when really it's more supernatural in nature what they're doing than it is scientific. Alice is the CERN project that we all know best, and the one to come dwarfs Alice by 10 times and will give them, they believe, the power needed to recreate the ultimate creation event that set all life into motion by God. They think they're going to recreate the Big Bang. I believe that they will fail, but they are set to wage this war with God and will continue to push to alter His work with their fancy gadgets that they have been developing for thousands of years. Well, I say thousands of years, but they say since the 60s. You know, right around the time they tell you that the Montauk and MK Ultra programs wrapped up. Let me leave you with a section from the statement given by that CERN scientist, Dr. Mantle, about the evil being done at CERN. In his own words, he said that the public has been told that it was constructed at a cost of tens of billions of euros for the purposes of studying the birth of the universe and the collisions that take place within the collider, and that allows us a quick glimpse at certain phenomenon that can only be witnessed when particles hit one another at incredibly high rates. This is not what the machine was designed for, nor is it what the machine has been used for since its inception. CERN's main purpose for building the collider was to open a doorway. Allow me to explain. The doorway idea came to fruition in the 1960s. You're going to hear a little Montauk in here. He goes on to say, after years and years of attempting to hide UFO phenomenon, including large-scale and very public interactions such as the Roswell incident and the Battle for Los Angeles, the governments of the United States, Great Britain, and France decided to throw their weight behind the understanding of what precisely these objects were. These ideas flew far and wide. Were UFOs from another planet? Were they from another time? Or were they simply mass hysteria and mass delusion filled by the overactive imagination of a public who were shit scared of communists and their technology? No, they were none of those. Our universe is but one page in a large book. Think of a closed book sitting on a table. You see each page stacked on top of one another, bound by the spine and sandwiched between the two covers. Our universe is but one page in a vast and all-encompassing book, and our page is certainly not the one with rich, in-depth thought and writing committed to it. Every page in the book represents a different dimension, each with its own unique writing, own unique story, own unique way of isolating itself from the other pages, and no page was to interact with the other, just as no ink bleeds from one page to another in a standard book. Each page is a universe unto itself. And within a few short years of mathematical research and fleets of scientists working under threat of extermination should they share any of their research, the book idea was finally cemented. Though many disagreed, the mathematics were there to support the idea, and the mathematics also showed that it was impossible for one page to interact with another. That was until the 1980s. During the 80s, billions of dollars of research was funneled into the idea that if we used enough energy, if we used enough force, concentrated into a small enough area, the size of a pinprick, we could theoretically tear our page and get a glimpse of the next page to ours. We could open a door from our universe to theirs. Now that is from a CERN physicist who worked with Alice and the other projects at CERN. Someone who really knows what they're messing with there. And you heard it there, right? I know that you heard it that time. He said it as plainly as any scientist working at CERN is ever going to say what they are really attempting to do there. They want to undo God's creation, and they will fail. Now this has been the first in our series on CERN, guys. The next CERN video will be coming really soon and will focus on another sub-project of CERN. I find the subject matter in the CERN series very disturbing, and I'm sure that you do too. But I want you to know, and I tried to state it multiple times in the video, they're going to fail. They will not succeed. Did they succeed in the first Tower of Babel? Because I believe this is our generation's Tower of Babel. They are attempting to pierce the veil. You heard him say it. They want to look at the next page. Well, we don't get to do that, and they're not going to succeed. But they are messing with things that are dangerous, and we need to bring attention to what they're doing there. They have a free pass to run wild with technology they don't even understand. But thanks for watching this episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill. Please like and share this video out with your friends and family, and remember to subscribe to our channel before you leave. I'll see you guys next time right here with a brand new video.
All right, that was the CERN video on the Midnight Ride, and that included a Zach reference, and I'm cool with it. And well, you know I'm cool with it. I'm fine with it. That was part of my life. That was a person from the past, a blast from the past. We run into those on a Midnight Ride. Sorry about that. That was my timer. I just made it back in time. I had to go walk the dogs. Because I still got to do that. Or I got to give back some money. I'm on the hook for like 2 weeks. But I'm thinking about giving back some money. Because I don't know, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of doing it. But this is the Midnight Ride. We're riding. We got one more video to go. The next one is from the Y-Files. So you know it's going to be amazing. And it has to do with Tesla's most powerful weapon. Now, Nikola Tesla is another one we need to do a Conspiracy Theories and Chill on. That is a figure we could do a big time Conspiracy Theories and Chill on and go way in depth on Nikola Tesla, because I have some theories myself on Nikola Tesla in general, just the man himself. But this is going to take us into midnight, at least where I'm at. It may already be midnight where you are, but this is the Midnight Ride. And if it's April Fool's where you are already, happy April Fool's. That's the best holiday. I'm sure it's pagan too. I don't know. I don't know the history of April Fool's, but I love it. Play a prank on somebody today and do it for me. But this is the Midnight Ride. We got one more to go. This is from the Y-Files. And it's on, like I said, Tesla's most powerful weapon. So let's watch this, and I'll be back with you on the Midnight Ride.
This episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by Private Internet Access. On June 30th, 1908, a mysterious explosion shook the remote Siberian region of Tunguska. The blast flattened 80 million trees across 800 square miles. Every plant, every animal, every insect in the blast radius was vaporized. The shockwave was felt as far away as England. It looked like a comet impact, yet no crater was found and no debris was discovered. Scientists still can't explain what happened. But at that exact moment on the other side of the world, Nikola Tesla was conducting his latest experiment, transmitting massive amounts of electricity through the atmosphere. Tesla activated the generators in his lab and fired up Wardenclyffe Tower for one final dramatic test, and sent millions of volts of electricity into the sky. After the test was complete, Tesla looked at the readings on his equipment and said, "Uh-oh." Inventor and visionary Nikola Tesla was known for his groundbreaking ideas that shaped the world of science and technology. However, there was one invention that remained shrouded in mystery and controversy, a weapon of unimaginable power. He called it the Tesla gun, but it became known by a more ominous name, the Tesla Death Ray. Tesla's fascination with electricity led him to conceive of a weapon that could destroy entire armies from a great distance. The science behind the Death Ray was based on Tesla's experiments with high-frequency electricity. Tesla believed that energy could be transmitted wirelessly over great distances. The weapon was designed as a large Tesla coil, which consisted of a series of capacitors that could store vast amounts of electrical energy. The energy was then released in a concentrated beam, which could be directed toward a target.
Ooh, it sounds a lot like the Death Star.
It does, but I don't think that's...
Don't be so proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant when it comes to the power of the Force.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Hecklefish. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you convince more people to join Patreon, or given you clairvoyance enough to see what videos the YouTube algorithm will
I find your lack of faith disturbing, human.
Enough of this. Lord Hecklefish, release him.
Yes, you wish.
Tesla wanted to create a weapon that could be powered by a small portable generator with enough power to destroy anything in its path. Fleets of planes, fields of tanks, and even entire cities. He described the potential of the Death Ray as a device that would harness unlimited free energy from the space all around us.
I have harnessed the cosmic rays and caused them to operate a motive device. This new power for driving of the world's machinery will be derived from the energy which operates the universe, the cosmic energy, whose whole central source for the Earth is the sun, and which is everywhere present in unlimited quantities.
Tesla's reasons for inventing the Death Ray were rooted in his strong belief in world peace. He hoped that the weapon would act as a deterrent to war, that if every nation possessed the ability to destroy each other, there'd be no point in waging war at all, and this ultimate weapon would usher in a new age of peace.
All right, like how there's been world peace ever since the nuclear bomb was invented.
Sarcasm.
Sharp as a bowling ball, this human, eh?
Obviously, political and military leaders were worried about Tesla's invention. Wherever they could, they tried to interfere. They prevented him from getting patents. They made it difficult for him to receive funding. It became a priority to do anything and everything possible to prevent Tesla from creating this weapon. But it didn't matter what they did. Tesla already built it. In 1908, just months before the Tunguska event, renowned explorer Admiral Robert Peary set out on an expedition to the North Pole, a feat that had never before been accomplished.
Well, except for Santa and his wife, and a tiny reindeer, and Rudolph, and a whole buttload of elves.
Thanks for that helpful clarification.
Hey, that's why I'm here.
Despite the numerous challenges, Admiral Peary was determined to reach the North Pole and make history. The journey would not be easy. The harsh Arctic environment made the expedition incredibly difficult and dangerous. The team faced extreme cold, blizzards, and unpredictable terrain. Despite these risks, Peary was determined to succeed, but he would need a new technology to help him navigate the desolate region. This is where Nikola Tesla came in. In 1904, Tesla developed a new type of radio receiver that could detect signals from the Death Ray, and this receiver was used by Admiral Peary during his North Pole expedition, and it was claimed that it helped him navigate through the hazardous Arctic terrain. But that was 1904. By 1906, Tesla's chief financial backer, J.P. Morgan, was growing impatient with Tesla and the lack of financial return. If J.P. Morgan withdrew funding, Tesla's plans would be ruined. As the relationship between Morgan and Tesla began to sour, Nikola Tesla knew he needed to do something dramatic to secure his funding and secure his future. Tesla knew the world was watching Admiral Peary's expedition to the North Pole and thought this was the perfect opportunity to demonstrate the awesome power of his invention. He would fire a bolt of energy toward Ellesmere and light up the skies, creating the greatest light show the world had ever seen. Just 2 months before Tunguska, Tesla wrote this.
This is not a dream. Even now, wireless power plants could be constructed by which any region of the globe might be rendered uninhabitable without subjecting the population of other parts to serious danger or inconvenience.
At the time of the Tunguska blast in 1908, Peary was camped out at Ellesmere Island preparing for a final push to the pole. Tesla sent Peary a cryptic message saying the extreme cold and isolation make the Arctic the perfect location for this type of experiment. Tesla told Peary to watch the skies above the tundra for a signal. Peary asked Tesla what kind of signal he should be looking for. Tesla told him that he'll know it when he sees it.
Uh-oh.
Back at Wardenclyffe Tower on the North Shore of Long Island, New York, the moment of truth had arrived. Tesla took a deep breath and activated the machine that would send the charged particles coursing through an intricate network of wires and coils. At first, the tower generated a low hum, but the sound grew louder and louder until it was a deafening roar. Once the machine was fully charged, a beam of light brighter than the sun shot out of Wardenclyffe Tower and sliced through the air. For 10 or 15 seconds, vast amounts of energy poured into the atmosphere. Then it suddenly stopped. Darkness followed, and the only sound was a crackling of static from the residual electricity created by the machine. Tesla felt an intense rush of exhilaration. The machine worked. He knew his funding would be secure and he could continue his work. But Tesla's excitement would last only a few moments. He looked at the readings on his death ray machine. It worked, but it worked too well. Rather than a dazzling light show, Tesla had created a massive wave of energy, 1,000 times more powerful than an atomic bomb. This immense power caused the energy beam to overshoot its target. It didn't light up the sky above Ellesmere, it made landfall somewhere in Russia. But even Tesla didn't know how destructive his weapon really was.
I woke up to the sound of the earth trembling beneath my feet. I could hear the trees outside my cabin being ripped from the ground and crashing down all around me. At first, I thought it was an earthquake, but the air was filled with the sound of explosions and gunfire. Something dark and terrible was happening outside.
As I stumbled out of my cabin and into the forest, I could see the sky lighting up with a fiery orange glow. It was like the sun had risen in the middle of the night, and the air was thick with the smell of smoke and burning wood.
Suddenly, there was a blinding flash that illuminated the entire forest, and the sound of a deafening boom that shook me to my core. I fell to the ground, my ears ringing with the force of the explosion, and I struggled to regain my bearings.
The trees around me were torn from the ground, and I could hear the sound of splintering wood and snapping branches. The ground shook so violently that I thought it might open up and swallow me whole.
I could feel the shockwave from the blast tearing through the forest. I saw trees being flattened in all directions, and I was pelted with debris from the explosion. The air was thick with dust and ash, and it was getting harder and harder to breathe.
When the dust finally cleared, the forest was a charred wasteland. The trees had been ripped from the ground, and there was nothing left but stumps and ash. The air was thick with the smell of burning wood. There were no sounds of birds or insects or animals, just eerie silence. I'd never felt so alone in my entire life.
On June 30th, 1908, a massive explosion occurred in the remote Tunguska region of Siberia, releasing an estimated 15 megatons of energy. The explosion flattened an area of over 800 square miles. No animal or plant in the blast radius survived. 80 million trees were reduced to cinders. No birds or insects had time to escape. Thousands of animals on the ground were vaporized. The scientific community still debates the cause of the Tunguska event. Some theories suggest that it was caused by a natural gas explosion or a nuclear detonation caused by extraterrestrial spacecraft.
Oh, go on.
But many people believe it was a Nikola Tesla experiment that got out of control. The prevailing theory is that the explosion was caused by an airburst, a large comet that exploded in the Earth's atmosphere. But there are some problems with this theory. Eyewitnesses have reported seeing lights in the sky both before and for days after the event. Meteors don't do this. Even as far away as England, the sky was lit up. Newspapers were flooded with reports of night turning into day. One reporter said he was able to read a book in the middle of the night using nothing but the strange light in the sky. Eyewitnesses also report the ground shaking like an earthquake for a long time before the impact. One witness said it was powerful enough to reduce a skyscraper to rubble. The seismic activity was enough to knock people off their feet, and the effects were felt all over Europe as far away as the UK. A meteor airburst would look like a streak of light or fire and then an explosion. This would last only a few seconds, but reports say a wide beam of light was in the sky for much longer than that. Locals said the air got very cold at first, then the sky lit up brighter than the sun, and suddenly the air was very, very hot. Also, there's no meteor crater or traces of meteorite in the area. And if you draw a line from Tesla's lab in New York to Ellesmere Island and continue that line, you end up in Siberia, very close to, if not the exact point of impact. The explosion happened at an altitude of 4 or 5 miles. This is much higher than most meteor airbursts. Luckily, the impact zone happened in Siberia, one of the most remote places on Earth.
Yeah, but what if this happened to a city?
Well, if the Tunguska event were to occur over a major city, it would be bad.
How bad? Oh no, here comes the scary music.
The sudden explosion would generate a massive shockwave that would rip through the city like a tornado, demolishing buildings and all infrastructure in its path. The shockwave would be followed by a searing fireball that would incinerate everything, leaving behind nothing but smoldering ash. The sheer force of the explosion would create a hurricane of debris and shrapnel. Anything not firmly attached to the ground would be thrown into the air. Cars, trucks, boats, planes, people. The resulting firestorm would continue to spread, fueled by the intense heat and winds generated by the blast. Streets and buildings would be consumed by a raging inferno, trapping anyone who had survived the initial blast in an ocean of flames and smoke. In the aftermath of such an event, the death toll would be staggering, in the millions. The city and surrounding landscape would be unrecognizable. As frightening as it is that one man could create a device that could wreak this kind of devastation, it's even more frightening that another Tunguska event could happen anywhere, at any time, without warning. And if it does, there's nothing we could do to stop it. The Death Ray, also known as the Tesla gun, was a weapon that was said to be capable of destroying entire armies with a single shot. While Tesla's weapon is still shrouded in mystery and controversy, the idea of a directed energy weapon is based on sound scientific principles. So, of course, modern militaries are developing them.
Same old story. Create technology that kills as many people as possible, then profit from it.
Maybe these weapons are used to protect our freedom.
Drink some more Kool-Aid, sheep.
The basic principle of directed energy weapons, or DEWs, is the conversion of electrical energy into an electromagnetic or particle beam, which is then directed toward the target. The type of energy used and the method of delivery vary depending on the weapon. Some DEWs use lasers, some use microwaves, and others use particle beams. For example, lasers work by emitting a concentrated beam of light that can burn, blind, or disable a target. Microwave weapons use high-frequency electromagnetic radiation to heat up or damage the target. Particle beam weapons use accelerated charged particles, such as electrons or protons, to cause damage. The effectiveness of a directed energy weapon depends on several factors: the power of the energy beam, the duration of the beam, and the distance between the weapon and the target. Range is critical, especially if the target is moving, because the weapon has to be able to track and maintain a lock. Directed energy weapons are being deployed right now. They've been used to disable missiles, drones, and other airborne threats, as well as provide non-lethal crowd control measures. Nikola Tesla had a deep understanding of particle physics and electromagnetic theory. His energy weapon used particles. The particles, which could be electrons, protons, or ions, would be accelerated to high speeds and focused in a beam using powerful magnetic fields. The beam would then be directed at the target, where it would cause massive damage. But the idea of a directed energy weapon was around before Nikola Tesla. But if anyone could create it, it was him. Though no one officially saw it in use, Tesla claimed his prototype worked. Tesla himself fueled the speculation. He wrote several letters to the New York Times explaining the potential of his invention.
As to projecting wave energy to any particular region of the globe, this can be done by my devices. The spot at which the desired effect is to be produced can be calculated very closely, assuming the accepted terrestrial measurements to be correct.
But is this what really happened at Tunguska? Was the explosion the result of a Tesla experiment gone awry, like many people believe, or was it the result of a meteor airburst? What would be helpful is if we had modern evidence of a large meteor airburst to help us better understand Tunguska.
We have it?
We do.
No.
It happened in 2013.
No.
And this time, we have video. And it's terrifying.
Это что такое? А что думаешь, может спутник там уже же падал, а не спутник?
On February 15, 2013, a blinding flash of light tore through the sky over the Russian city of Chelyabinsk, followed by a deafening explosion that shook the earth. Local residents were stunned, terrified, and confused. The event, which has since become known as the Chelyabinsk meteor, was one of the most dramatic and mysterious events in recent history and remains a testament to the scary power of the universe. The meteor that caused the Chelyabinsk event was estimated to be around 60 feet in diameter and weighed over 10,000 tons. It entered the Earth's atmosphere at a speed of approximately 19 kilometers per second.
How fast is that in a number we can actually understand?
12 miles per second, or 43,000 miles per hour, almost 60 times the speed of sound.
Yeah, I understand that. And now I'm terrified.
The fireball glowed 30 times brighter than the sun, so bright and so hot that people suffered burns on their skin and damage to their eyes. The resulting explosion was estimated to be equivalent to 500 kilotons of TNT, making it one of the most powerful non-nuclear explosions ever recorded. The shockwave shattered windows, damaged over 1,000 buildings, and injured 1,500 people. Unlike Tunguska, scientists were able to study the Chelyabinsk meteor in detail. They found that the meteor was likely a remnant of the early solar system and had been traveling through space for about 4.5 billion years before colliding with Earth. The Chelyabinsk event also served as a wake-up call for the scientific community because nobody saw it coming. There was zero warning. And these types of meteor airbursts and impacts happen every day. Whenever you see a shooting star, that's a small meteor burning up in the atmosphere. But larger impacts happen pretty often too. Every 10 or 15 years, but they usually happen over the ocean so we don't notice. But that's just dumb luck. The Tunguska event was 10,000 times more powerful than the one at Chelyabinsk, enough to easily wipe out a large city. But the Chicxulub impact that happened 66 million years ago, that wiped out about 75% of all species on Earth, including all the dinosaurs. And that wasn't even the biggest asteroid to hit the Earth, not even close. So it's not a matter of if it'll happen again, it's just a matter of when. Now, fortunately, scientists are taking this threat seriously. NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART mission, conducted a successful test on September 26, 2022. It intentionally slammed into the asteroid called Dimorphos and altered its orbit by 33 minutes. Now, that's not very much, but when considering the vast distances of space, a 33-minute change could be the difference between an asteroid passing by harmlessly or wiping out all life on Earth. There are over 1 million asteroids in our solar system, and NASA is currently tracking over 30,000 near-Earth asteroids, or NEAs, that are potential threats. Still, that's only 90% of the dangerous objects zipping around the solar system. Because look, the dinosaurs didn't have a space program.
Well,
What?
lizard people have a space program. Everybody knows that.
Oh, are lizard people gonna protect us from asteroids?
No way. Lizard people want an asteroid. It'll save them a lot of work when most humans are wiped out, and then they can enslave the rest of us.
Well, that's reassuring.
Don't worry. Lizard people are known to be strict but fair overlords.
The universe is full of wonders, but also full of dangers. We have to do everything we can and deploy every possible resource to ensure that we don't experience another Chelyabinsk, or another Tunguska, or another Chicxulub. Our fate is up to us.
And up to the lizard people.
Please don't step on my lines when I'm trying to be dramatic and hopeful.
Oh, excuse me. You have to acknowledge the lizard people. It's just
come
a
on,
matter
no
of
one
time
believes in
before they
lizard
put all
people, and
you
even if they
humans
did,
in
they should be
chains
more
anyway.
worried about asteroids.
No,
But the story of the Tunguska event, the Tesla death ray, and the potential connection between the two is an example of the power of human imagination and the endless possibilities of science and technology. While the theory that the death ray caused the explosion remains unproven, the story serves as a reminder of the potential that scientific discovery and technological innovation have to change the world. The legacy of Nikola Tesla is not just in his inventions, but also in his vision for the future. Tesla was a forward thinker who believed that science and technology held the key to a brighter and a better world. He once said, "We crave for new sensations but soon become indifferent to them. The wonders of yesterday are today common occurrences." Now that's certainly true. Look at smartphones. These devices are marvels of engineering, packed with advanced sensors, processors, and software that allow us to communicate, learn, and entertain ourselves in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. Yet despite their incredible capabilities, we treat them as if they were as mundane as a toaster or a vacuum cleaner. The same can be said for many other innovations, from self-driving cars and drones to virtual reality and artificial intelligence. We become so accustomed to the incredible power and potential of these technologies that we sometimes forget how amazing they truly are. But when Tesla said the wonders of yesterday are today common occurrences, he wasn't scolding us. That was a dream that he had. That technology, specifically his technology, would be available to everyone, everywhere in the world. Tesla's vision for the future was that science and technology would improve the human condition. He saw a world where energy was abundant and cheap, where people could communicate instantly across vast distances, and where machines could do the work that humans once had to do by hand. He believed that these advancements could lead to a better and more prosperous world for all, and he was right. 70% of all products we touch can be traced back to Tesla, including 100% of products that use electricity. His ideas continue to inspire. Electric cars, solar power, and wireless communication owe a debt to Tesla. In the end, the story of the Tunguska event and Tesla's death ray is not just about the potential for destruction and chaos, but also about the incredible power of human ingenuity and the limitless potential of science and technology. Tesla said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really work, is mine." But because of him, the future now belongs to all of us. I just hope we use it wisely.
All right. That was the midnight ride. That was our last video on the ride. Tesla's interesting, right? I mean, Tesla's a fascinating subject. Nikola Tesla himself, just the man, is a fascinating subject. Your grandparents lived in that area, Joan, of the Tunguska event or whatever? Do you think that that was the result of Tesla's technology or some kind of a natural phenomenon? I believe it was probably Tesla's technology. But this has been the midnight ride. We've been riding and hanging out. I gotta get some rest though, here in a minute. It's getting ready to be midnight where I am. Jones already past midnight. I don't know what time it is where you are, but wherever you are, whenever you get here, you were right on time. This is the midnight ride. All you're gonna have to do is wait a minute and start it back over, and you're right on time. See what I mean? You can watch this many times you want. It lives on the internet now. But thanks for hanging out. This collection brought to you by me. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time hanging out with you. But I'll see you in the morning at the mid-morning yank. I almost said the midnight yank. Have a great night. God bless. Thanks for hanging out.